Sacabo, welcome, bienvenidos. Today we are going to discuss unpopular opinions. My name is Roxana, and the first thing we're going to do for the purposes of this video is to establish some parameters that will provide context as to where my opinions are coming from. First of all, I'm a member of Generation X. As you can see on the chart, Generation X started in mid-1960s and lasted until early 80s. I was a teenager during the 80s, graduating high school in 1985. My experience with boys was a fun memory until I realized that there was a lot of grooming going on. However, back in those days, we didn't know it as grooming. So what is grooming exactly? According to RAINN.org, grooming is manipulative behaviors that the abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, coerce them to agree to the abuse, and reduce the risk of being caught. Keep in mind that although this organization focuses on child misbehavior, there are many other forms of grooming, and all of them lead to doing something you might not want to do while being convinced by others that you do want to do this. In the 80s, we just assumed that this was the way it was supposed to be. I now hear so many complaining that teenagers know exactly what they were doing, but I'm going to provide an example of how naive a 15-year-old can be. Yes, I knew what sex was, and when the hottest 22-year-old in town started paying attention to little old me, I knew exactly what he wanted. However, I made sure never to be caught alone with him and spent a lot of time with him in groups because in my 15-year-old brain, I was going to make him fall in love with me because if he fell in love, even if we did it, he was not going to leave me. I can laugh at it now. The truth is, women still think this way. We have plenty of fatherless children in the world to prove it. I tell you all this because I'm about to tell you a very unpopular opinion, and coming from me, it might not make sense. Except, if you were raised in the 80s, you know that if you were the victim of misbehavior, you probably didn't tell anyone because nobody would believe you. Why? Because many people who actually talked were raked through the coals, and they were either lying or people were getting paid to testify against them. Their lives were judged in court because nothing says, quote, believe the victims, end quote, like going to court and having every little experience in your life told to a room full of strangers, just so like the real criminal gets acquitted and the victim feels like trash. Now that the parameters are set, why am I saying that this idea has come full circle and it's time to accept that we cannot, in good conscience, believe all victims? Take the Colin Ballinger situation, the James Charles situation, and cases like Roman Polanski or Woody Allen. Think about R. Kelly or Bill Cosby. What do all these people have in common? Is it a core audience that will love them no matter what they do? Yes. Is it the fact that there is plenty of evidence that they misbehaved? Yes. Are there outliers claiming grooming and or abuse when none happened? Yes. In fact, the reason why the first question's answer is a yes is because people lie and fangs hang on to all hope that if those people were lying, so is everyone else. This is why you can't believe all victims. We've had plenty of evidence that for every Adam McIntyre, we have people like Cody and Johnny who might use the truth to hide their own demons. Every case I mentioned before has had several people who decided to make their claim to fame solely by manipulating their experiences to fit the narrative, and in the process, much like back in the 80s, paint the real victims into a bad light, bad enough for others to question the validity of their claims. I look at the roller coaster that Adam has been put through, and I have to tip my hat to this young man who has had the guts to stick to his reality, even in the face of all this judgment, gaslighting, and outrage from people who will never meet Colleen or be her BFF, but are willing to continuously trash him because he dared to speak the truth against their favorite celebrity. The bottom line is that believing every victim is dangerous. And by the way, I'm not saying don't believe any victim. What I am saying is that unless you're involved in an investigation related to a victim or part of the situation, in other words, if you're a spectator like me, The best course of action, and yes, I'm aware this is also the hardest, is to reserve judgment. As someone who automatically side-eyed Jonathan Majors recently, I can tell you that I am not coming for anyone or thinking I'm better than anyone. I'm also talking to myself and reminding myself daily when I see an accusation not to come to conclusions just because we are supposed to believe all victims. I can't wait to read all your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.